Welcome back to Midday, a dark day in America, saluting the 12th man and times of uncertainty at local plants. Dave McKinley has our weekly walk back through time when those stories and more were all news to you.
It was 10 years ago this week.
There's no words that I could come up with that would even come close to describing the sheer terror.
The names of Newtown and Sandy Hook were indelibly inscribed in the American lexicon when a gunman killed 20 children and 6 adults at a Connecticut elementary school. The president spoke, prayers were offered, laws were passed aimed at preventing such senseless violence and tragedy, which, as we know all too well in Buffalo, continues to occur with unfortunate frequency, a decade after the unforgettable horror which unfolded this week in 2012. 20 years ago this week, the dam broke on the first of what would become a flood of sex abuse scandals and cover-ups involving pedophile priests in the Catholic Church when Cardinal Bernard Law stepped down as Archbishop of Boston, submitting his resignation to Pope John Paul II, after which that diocese would pay out close to $100 million to more than 500 victims. Senator Strom Thurmond turned 100, becoming the only centenarian to serve as a member of Congress. And while these guys looked like criminals, they weren't. They were helping to raise money for muscular dystrophy through a once popular effort called What? This week's News to You pop quiz: what was the name of this since disbanded MDA fundraiser which involved you going to the clink, getting a mugshot with a Polaroid, P-O-L-O, oh, just ask your parents, kids, and then having to phone friends who pledged money for your release, or in my case, they pledged more if they'd keep you. Remember, this was back when
singles are keeping one eye on their date and the other on the clock.
Yes, speed dating was the new trend among the singles set this week in 2002. 30 years ago this week, time to shovel out the stadium again, but for a most important honor when the Bills unveiled the latest member of the Wall of Fame to be the 12th man.
Or person.
The 12th woman! Yeah!
But things weren't so cheery at some of the local plants.
We must take these actions to ensure our competitive health at General Motors.
The first to be put on pins and needles were workers in GM's Saginaw division, both the gear and axle on East Delavan and Tonawanda Forge. Both were later sold to American Axle, which would operate Tonawanda Forge for 7 years before shutting it down. The gear plant on East Delavan only lasted 5 more. Meanwhile, Bethlehem Steel was selling its galvanized plant in Hamburg. 800 jobs saved, but things would only roll on there for another 7 years before it finally closed. And there was a fire at Depew High School, the cause of which might still cause you to scratch your head.
Students started a blaze while trying to dry out textbooks in a microwave oven.
That is one I've not heard since the days when this was all news to you.
Thank you, Dave. And here's the answer to Dave's News to You pop quiz for this week. This once popular fundraiser for muscular dystrophy was called Jail and Bail. And if you haven't seen it make headlines in a while, there's good reason. We reached out to the National MDA, and in an email they told us the program was disbanded because MDA does not engage in programs with an overlay of the criminal justice system. So there you go. Patrick, did you ever do speed dating? I did it once in 2003, so a year after the video Dave showed.
I did not. I did do the jail and bail, though, about 20 years ago. I was involved in one of those.
Yeah,
and had to call your friends and get you out.
Yeah. When I was in Arkansas. But yeah, speed dating. It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And you had to take notes.
And can you get a connection with anybody when you're like...
Right. I think we each had 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Till you had to move to a different table.
There's no way we can peel back the onion on either of us in 8 minutes.
No.
There's a lot more to discover.
Oh, yes. Lots of layers for sure.
Lots of layers. All right.